I'm Jim Gilbert, and I've had a wandering minstrel kind of a career in journalism, which began in Provincetown, Massachusetts, at a newspaper that doesn't exist anymore, but a very old at the time rag called the Provincetown Advocate. And I worked there for a few years and helped start a new edition of the magazine in the next newspaper in the next door town of Wellfleet, Massachusetts. And then I moved to Puerto Rico for a couple of years to become a reporter and later editor of a large English language newspaper in San Juan called Caribbean Business. And then I moved back to the States, to Newport, Rhode Island, where I became an editor at a sailing magazine called Cruising World, which was followed by a stint of 3 years as the editor-in-chief of a book publishing company associated with Cruising World, about publishing books about what you need to know and do, and other more lyrical stories about having to do with sailing in the world. And then I became the editor-in-chief of, also in Newport, Rhode Island, of a magazine called The Yacht, which doesn't exist anymore. But 3 years into that stint, I became enraptured by these large yachts that kept appearing and more frequently in Newport, Rhode Island. These just beautiful, exotic, creations, and I just found them fascinating endlessly for their aesthetic reasons and for their technological innovations and the people who owned them and how they used them. And so when I got a chance, I became the founding editor-in-chief and publisher of a magazine called Showboats International. And that was just starting up in Fort Lauderdale, so I moved the family down there, and became the first title to really focus exclusively on the luxury yachts of the world, both sailing and motor yachts, and that was something that I did for the next 20 years. And it afforded me an extraordinary opportunity to travel everywhere in the world and meet some truly remarkable characters, and to be a part of this industry that was, when we started it, in its infancy, and which grew to be something quite different from anything that had existed in the field in the maritime world up to that point. And when I finally sold the magazine, in the interim, I had put a group of investors together to help me do a leveraged buyout of the magazine from the original owners, and I took the time to start writing for myself, and I wrote a novel called The Admiral, having to do with a group of sailors who escaped the ravages of climate change on land to form a community of kindred souls out in the middle of the ocean, where they could be safe from disease and the rising waters and all the horrible things that happen to the world in my novel, and which I expect will be visiting our shores before too long, whether we want it or not. So it was my chance to not only write for myself, but to tell a story that had captivated me throughout my life, about the changes taking place in the oceans, and how we were very rapidly getting to a place that we really didn't want to be in.